Well, welcome everybody. My name is David and I get to be your moderator and host in today's exciting webinar on how to increase closing ratios on mortgage, internet, and direct mail leads. And we've got a bonus presentation at the end of this webinar. You're going to be excited to hear about some specific tactics and strategies on how to improve your performance and your production inside of your office from one of the industry's experts. So we've got an action-packed hour. Maybe a little bit less than an hour, but if we can get your undivided attention for the next 60 minutes, I think that you'll get a good return on your investment. We've got an expert panelist today. Jeff Bush is the president of Overflowworks.com. He's got over 20 years in direct marketing experience, and he's mailed over 1 billion pieces of direct mail for the mortgage industry. He's had a tremendous amount of success not only in the direct mail industry, but he's also been a proven mortgage producer, owning a mortgage banking company that closed over 5,000 loans and using direct mail and internet leads as their primary lead generation tactic. So he's got some specific strategies and tactics. Now he works with some of the top mortgage companies around the country. I've asked him to produce some documentation just to show you the kind of level of expertise that he is providing to some of the top mortgage companies. Here's just a couple of checks that he's received in the last 4 to 6 months from mortgage customers with their names and information and banking and routing information mirrored out. But oftentimes people ask him the question of who do you work with, and prove it to me that your direct mail works. Well, if a check for $199,000 doesn't convince you, I'm not sure what we could say today that would convince you. But hear himself to talk a little bit more about how to improve your closing ratios and improve your response rate is Jeff Bush. Jeff, welcome to the call today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. Appreciate it.
Well, Jeff, talk a little bit more about your experience before we jump into this presentation, because you've obviously had a wide range of experience, including time in the mortgage industry, and people want to know what has put you in this position to be leading this mortgage marketing company.
Well, I've done direct mail marketing for mortgage companies for most of my life. I mean, spent like 15 years doing it. From the time I was a pretty young kid all the way up, into my mid-30s, and then we sold the direct mail company, and I had a non-compete. I couldn't be in the direct mail business for like 3 years, and trying to figure out what I was going to do. I said, gosh, all these mortgage guys are making a lot of money off the direct mail and the leads that I'm generating. I think I'm going to get in the mortgage business. So kind of a rare experience of that, 15 years of direct mail, and then I opened up a mortgage company and ran it for 7 years. It wasn't a big company. We were doing 100, 120 loans a month, but I had a $20 million warehouse line. I had an escrow company, and I knew how to make the phones ring. That was the only thing I knew about the mortgage business. Didn't really know how to close a loan or take a credit app, or but I found some good people to help me set it up, and we ended up doing really well, funding 5,000 loans over that 7-year period. And then 2007 hit, and the business got really tough. And we ended up just winding it down, shutting it down, and then I went back in the direct mail business again. So I've kind of been direct mail, mortgage, now back to direct mail. So just kind of different experience that I've been on both sides of the fence for both the marketing and funding loans, and I know what it takes as far as to make that phone ring with qualified prospects that can actually close and get your marketing costs down and your profitability up on your marketing spend.
Well, Jeff, you've got some obviously some very valuable customers that have invested a lot of money in you. And in terms of today's presentation, maybe share a little bit about what has been successful for you, and then give us an overview of what's going to take place today on today's webinar.
Well, the thing about the mortgage business, obviously, is it's always changing. I just read a report this morning that said that we're at a 14-year low on mortgage originations. I think it's the slowest last month since it's been in the year 2000, which is kind of crazy. Just everybody not everybody, but a lot of people slowed down. And what we were doing that was working really well 6-9 months ago is not working at all today. So you're constantly having to innovate and reinvent yourself with, who can actually benefit from refinancing, or if rates go too high, can we market for purchase loans, and how do we keep the phones ringing and keep loans closing in this ever-changing market. So I'm pretty good at looking at different mortgage niches and finding the data and writing the letters to where we can invoke a response rate, and then when these calls come in, have a good conversion on them. And there's so many aspects to direct mail as far as the list and the letter and the actual mortgage product that we're marketing. You know, what's going to make the phone ring, what's going to close loans that we make money on, so we can get an ROI on our marketing investment. So that's really what I feel like my gifting is putting all that together and doing a better job than most out there as far as, you know, direct mail, mortgage marketing, leads, conversion, the whole package.
Well, you've done some great work with helping mortgage companies that are doing internet leads and, you know, being successful with them to get a better response rate by integrating a direct mail campaign into that. So we're going to do a quick overview on some of those tactics and strategies and talk a little bit more of that return on investment. Do you want to just give kind of an overview of this customized letter you put together?
Yeah, so a lot of mortgage companies buy internet leads, you know, and they pay anywhere from, you know, $2 a lead to probably $60 is the most expensive ones I see. And, you know, they're paying all this money for internet leads, and the only thing they get is the customer's name and phone number and email address. Everybody, you know, jumps on these leads and starts calling these people and start emailing them. And, you know, the best companies in the country maybe get a hold and make contact with like 40% of these internet leads that they buy. So we're thinking, hey, what happens to 50% that you never reach, that won't reply to your emails, won't return your voicemail messages? So we started mailing letters to these internet leads that our clients were buying, and every day they might get, you know, 20 internet leads, and we'll mail 20 letters. And we've had a huge response rate of people responding to these letters in the mail where maybe they don't respond to the phone call or the email. So it's just one extra touch point to help you improve your closing ratios on the internet leads you're already buying. If you're paying $20 to $50 for an internet lead, you know, what's another dollar to mail them a letter if you can get a good response rate and get people calling off the direct mail letter? The other thing it does, it kind of separates you from the competition. Everybody's calling and emailing these people. If you mail a letter in the mail, even though it's a little bit old school, you know, the whole snail mail, direct mail, post office, I mean, everybody wants, you know, internet and social media, but it's funny, mailing these letters to these people, they get them, they open them, and we get a huge response and helps, you know, get more incoming leads and better conversion on your internet leads. So this is a sample letter that we mail. We can actually assign whatever loan officer you assigned your internet lead to. We can actually variable print their name on this letter, and we do like a hand addressed with a stamp or a hand addressed font, one of the two depending on cost, and make it look like this loan officer sat down and wrote these people a letter and mailed it to them. So it's real personal, and, you know, it just helps connect the borrower to that loan officer. So this is just a sample letter that we send out, and we've had some great response on it.
So talk a little bit more about just from a return on investment, you know, just where you're seeing this letter fitting in, and, you know, who would be a good candidate to integrate this into their business.
Well, anybody buying a decent quantity of internet leads, I think, can benefit from this whole program where we set up a campaign to get like a daily feed of their internet leads and print and mail letters to them. Again, it's just, you know, all those leads that you're not contacting or not reaching, if we can get, you know, 10 or 15% of them to respond, it just puts you in the game talking to more borrowers, and you're going to, you know, get a better ROI on the internet leads that you're already buying. So anybody buying a decent quantity of internet leads could benefit from this, and we can do, you know, one-on-one presentations after the webinar's over if somebody wants to look at this closer.
Great. So basically, the individual company provides the records of the internet leads that you have been unable to reach. You send a letter from their CEO on the company letterhead. You hand address the envelopes to get a great open rate. And what are you, about 90, 95% open rate, Jeff?
Yeah, when we hand address the envelope with the live stamp on it, you know, you pretty much have to open that. We say 99% of the people open the envelope, so at least they see your company name. And we mentioned, hey, you applied for a loan on the internet, you know, your loan was assigned to us, we'd like to talk to you about it. You know, I've been emailing you, I've been calling you, haven't heard from you, wanted to drop this letter in the mail. And it just, you know, helps increase, again, just a certain amount of people are going to respond to phone calls, certain people respond to emails, and certain people respond to direct mail. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach instead of two.
Well, this is a sample of the letter, hand-scripted font, and then you've got the ability to obviously put the disclaimers and custom contact information and letterhead on that. But anything else about the specific letter that you find is eye-catching or high response driven?
You know, the only thing I said on this particular campaign is the more personalized it is, the better. You know, if we reference their mortgage amount and maybe the day they applied for their loan online, you know, some of my clients are actually providing me the name where they bought the internet lead. So if they buy, you know, 500 LendingTree leads a month, we might say in the letter, hey, you applied for a loan on LendingTree, and we're, you know, the preferred vendor, and your lead was assigned to us, and we'd like to talk to you. So the more we can reference what they did and that we know them, the better the response and conversion. So.
Well, this is an example of what the envelope looks like, and for those of you that are fans of direct mail, you can see the quality and just the attractiveness of getting that opened up. Anything else about the mail piece, Jeff, for this internet follow-up or internet lead follow-ups for those people that just joined us?
Yeah, that envelope's like, I believe it's called an A2 or an A6. It's a little square envelope. It kind of looks like a birthday card or what you might mail a Christmas holiday card in. And again, with the stamp on crooked, I mean, it just looks real personal. People have to open it, so at least they see your name in their mailbox, and kind of legitimizes the company a little bit when you mail something. You're not just some mortgage lender out there in internet lead space, which everybody's a little hesitant about, especially when they're getting 10, 20, 30 phone calls from different people. Everybody's buying the same leads and kind of on top of each other. It just separates you a little bit.
Well, this is an example of one of the campaigns that you did. Talk a little bit more about through these numbers and what drove these response rates, Jeff.
Well, most people in the mortgage business, they know if they mail 10,000 letters, the average response rate's only about 30 calls, about a 0.3 response rate. So this particular one got a 1% response, so it was triple the response rate of a normal cold list because we know these people are in the market for a mortgage. They applied online. And then, you know, we have a higher closing ratio on these people because we know they're in the market. They're not just looky-loos. They went online and applied for a loan. So instead of the average closing ratio at around, you know, 8 to 10% on a cold direct mail campaign, we got a 20% close ratio on this. So, you know, 16 funded loans. What if they spend $1 a piece on that for $8,000, 8,000 letters? What is that? $500 per funded loan. It's a, you know, pretty good deal on, you know, comparing it with anything else that's out there on a cost per funded loan basis.
We are also using email marketing and this multidisciplinary approach, you know, using email, direct mail, and internet to be able to really improve the pull-through rate. How effective has email been for some of your clients, Jeff?
You know, the average open rate on emails nowadays, I think, is around 6%. So you send 10,000 emails and only 600 people open them. And out of the 600, you know, maybe you get, you know, 6 responses or 60 responses depending on your offer and your list. We have pretty sophisticated email servers that are pretty good at delivering these emails and getting them through the spam filters. Email marketing has the highest ROI of any marketing in America, higher than TV, radio, direct mail, because it's so cheap. So we've got some clients that are like, hey, Jeff, I've bought like 1,000 internet leads a month for the last 12 months. So they'll send us their file of like 12,000 internet leads, and we'll email the entire file. And it's amazing how many people applied for a loan a year ago or 6 months ago that never moved forward, and we get a huge response on email marketing, and it's pretty cheap. So this is an example of an email we might send out, and we ask them just to tell us, did you end up doing your loan with someone else so we can take you off our list? Sometimes it helps to just clear off the people that already moved forward with someone else so you're not wasting your time calling them and emailing them. So it's a good way to kind of purge your list, and it's a good shot in the arm with just some instant business that can get you, you know, some loans funded pretty inexpensively because there's no postage. You know, so we're doing a lot of email marketing along with our direct mail that's helped lower our costs per funded loan and increase our ROI.
So just a quick sample, the results of an email campaign. Obviously, Jeff, the numbers and data speaks for itself. Is there anything specific that you want to point out on this this data set?
Well, like I just said, the average open rate on emails in America, I think, is 6%. You can see this one had a 20% open rate. And the reason it had a 20% open rate is because it's targeted data for people that we know are in the market for a loan. And we use some pretty creative subject lines to get the emails open, like one of the subject lines we've been using is your loan docs with a question mark. So when we send the email out, they see a subject line, your loan docs. They're in the market for a loan. They might be working with a lender already, thinking their docs are ready. So it really gets a huge open rate and gets a lot of response and a good ROI.
So on this internet marketing campaign, let's just go through the breakdown, Jeff, and talk a little bit more about different options and resources that you have available to customize a marketing solution for people on the webinar today.
Yes, I think this is just if you were buying a big number of internet leads, whether it be, 8,000 leads per month, or maybe it's 8,000 over an 8-month time period and it's 8,000 records, we could send, daily direct mail and weekly emails, and the combination of direct mail and email, it would be $11,000 for first-class postage, handwritten envelopes. For $11,000, we're seeing a cost per funded loan of around $500 a piece, so probably 22 loans on that investment. So, setting up a direct mail email campaign with your data, could be a real effective way to lower your cost per funded loan and bump,
That's great. Well, if you have any questions you'd like to ask Jeff about this particular campaign, you can use the GoToWebinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen to send a quick chat message, and I'll answer those questions with Jeff in the order in which they're received. Otherwise, Jeff, walk us through the return on investment breakdown for this particular campaign we shared.
Yeah, so an average loan amount of $200,000. If we can get 10 loans funded from email and 16 from the direct mail letters, if you could fund 26 loans at $4,000 profit, it just shows you a huge ROI. You make $104,000 in profit on an $11,000 investment. You also get to clean out the dead leads out of your database, and talk to some borrowers on if they did move forward with another lender, find out why, and kind of maybe tweak your script and your processes a little bit to better work the internet leads that you're going to continue to buy every month.
Great. Well, we're going to move on to direct mail marketing and just some of the basics, just to go over some of the stuff that you've perfected over the last 20 years of experience in doing high volume. Just walk us through the basics of what you've discovered in your experience, Jeff, and then let's get into a couple of real specific campaign tactics.
Yeah, so this slide is worded a little funny. If you really, the easiest way to say this is you take 40% is the list and 40% is the offer. So 80% of the success of your direct mail campaign is based on what list you're marketing to and what you're offering to those people. That's everything in direct mail. The actual mail piece, whether you do color or black and white or a letter or a postcard, really doesn't have as much to do with, if you make the right offer to the right people, that's what gears the response. And again, with the mortgage business always changing, sometimes you can have a great list of prospects and a great offer, but if they've received 20 letters in the mail over the last 2 or 3 months, you're still going to get a bad response rate. So it's kind of finding that mortgage niche that 20 different companies aren't mailing to and marketing, and writing a strong letter, getting really targeted data, and that's what we're really good at, is designing the mailers, writing the copy, making that offer stronger.
Well, you've got a document that you can send out to individuals that are curious about some of the top campaigns that you're leveraging with some of your top mortgage mailing customers. Jeff, walk us through this PDF document and then tell everybody how they can get a copy of it.
So we have 9 different refinance direct mail campaigns that we do, and we have 3 different purchase campaigns. There's only 2 purchase campaigns listed on here because we have a brand new one that's targeting VA qualified prospects that are renting. So it's kind of a VA purchase campaign, which is brand new. I'm pretty excited about that because these people don't have to come up with any money down. They don't have to wait and save up the down payment. We mail them a letter. They can go get 100% financing, go buy a home now and close in 30 to 60 days. And those VA loans are pretty big loan amounts, $250,000, $350,000, $400,000, $500,000 loan amounts. So my clients are making a lot of money doing the VA purchase loans. Purchase campaigns aren't as common with direct mail. Everybody wants refis because they're going to close in 30 days. So most of the mail we do is still for refinance, but we're kind of blending it when rates are going up and volatility in the market. Some more of our clients have been looking at trying to generate some purchase leads, they can take these buyers out to their realtors and put some leads in the realtors' hands and some money in their pocket and kind of reciprocate with the realtors referring them loans. So the purchase, we can mail people that are renting single-family residences. We know they're paying a pretty healthy amount of rent every month, so we know they have income. Typically a little bit better credit, people renting homes versus apartments. So we've got a single-family renters campaign. We've been mailing people that had a bankruptcy 2 to 5 years ago. A lot of them think they have to wait 7 years to buy a home. They don't realize they can do a FHA loan with 3.5% down, you know, just 2-3 years after their bankruptcy. So that's been a pretty successful purchase campaign. So that's on the purchase side. And then refi, I mean, there's still a lot of people out there paying, you know, 5, 6, you know, even 6.5% interest rates on mortgages. And we've been finding them and marketing to them and still getting a decent response and enough funded loans to keep the mail going and, you know, keep things profitable. So some of our top campaigns, the HARP owner-occupied has been pretty beat up out there. It's pretty saturated, not much response coming out of that mail, but we've been marketing some of the non-owner-occupied HARP loans and still seeing a big response, and those people are paying pretty high rates and can benefit from a refi on HARP, appraisal waiver, 1-year tax returns, pretty easy loans to do as long as you have a lender that'll do, you know, unlimited LTV, Fannie Freddie for HARP. That's been huge. Real popular campaign is all these FHA borrowers that took out loans in 2009, 10, 11, 12. A lot of them have 20% equities in their property now, so we've been marketing them to get out of your FHA loan into a conventional loan and save that money you're paying every month in mortgage insurance, which is $200, $300, $400 a month just in mortgage insurance. You might only be able to lower their rate a half a point or a point, but getting them out of MI, that's a pretty big deal. So huge response and conversion on that mail campaign. Cash out seems to be coming back with all the equity out there. People are wanting to take 20, 30, 40 grand cash out and pay off debt, motorhomes, boats, credit cards. So that's kind of making a comeback. We're seeing some response there. And then the FHA VA streamlines that are paying higher rates that haven't taken advantage. And there's a ton of clients still doing a lot of streamline loans. So these are just all the different campaigns. You know, we've got people with adjustable rate mortgages that might want to get fixed. We've got a jumbo campaign. We do some reverse mortgage mailers, so we can kind of go through these depending on what types of loans these prospects, clients might want to market to and what their niche is, what kind of loans they want. We can kind of direct them into these different campaigns.
That's great. Well, this is a comprehensive document with also all kinds of interactive features. And so how do they get a copy of this particular resource, Jeff?
You know, just send me an email and I'll reply back to you when you get this document. There's little push pins at the top. You can open up the push pins and it shows you a sample direct mail letter that we mail to that specific corresponding list, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're mailing to these people to get the phones to ring. So each one of these push pins is a different letter targeting that specific list. Again, getting the right data and making the right offer is everything in direct mail. So this just shows these aren't always our best samples. It's just, you know, a sample of a mailer that worked. We don't like to show all of our mail pieces on this document, but until somebody signs up to be a client, we kind of hide some of the mail pieces that are, you know, the best response, just so people don't copy them and take our work. And then, you know, the count basically shows how many records we have by state for each one of these data sets. So you can kind of look at the states you're licensed in and see how many people are out there that we can mail to, and look at the letters, and we can walk you through, hey, let's design a campaign that'll work for you.
That's great. Well, for those of you who would want to plug into that, we'll get you a copy of that. And now we're going to go to a real important topic, which is 7 ways to increase your closing ratio on leads. And this is Trench's type experience, proven tactics and things that you've done personally, Jeff, and you've coached them and consulted some of the top mortgage companies in the country to perfect. Talk a little bit more about these 7 tactics, and then just give us a little bit of an overview on how you came up with this idea of increasing closing percentages.
Yeah, so the average closing ratio on leads is 6%. I think that's an average of, you know, direct mail, internet leads, television, radio, just kind of combined. I've seen companies take closing ratios from 6% up to as high as 20% on their leads by just, paying a little more attention to following the leads, and we're going to go through each individual step. But I remember one year, I think it was 2005, was my biggest year in the mortgage business. Everything was booming, and we were doing a lot of loans. And I remember I was spending like $200,000 a month on direct mail, and I had figured out where my average closing ratio was like 7% on my leads. And if I could move my closing ratio from 7% to 8%, I would have made an additional $1 million a year in income if I could just move my closing ratio 1 percentage point. Because we were getting, 1,000 calls a month into our building, and that extra 10, 20 loans a month could just be very profitable, because just the way business works, fixed overhead and incremental, sales and revenue, the way, P&Ls and financials work, it was just amazing to me. So I really went to work on increasing my closing ratio, and I moved it, and it made a lot of money. So just sharing some of those ideas with our prospects and clients,
Well, the first strategy, Jeff, you've talked about is, somewhat simple, but talk us through where you were revealed to this idea of just answering your calls was a needed strategy.
Yeah, just making sure that the calls get answered is just such a huge issue in mortgage companies. It's funny. I just had a client that gets 1,000 calls a month off direct mail, and he told me that he thinks his spillage as far as calls that aren't getting answered is probably 15%. And it just blows my mind that not having an available loan officer, not having the right phone system that can route calls. If somebody calls in off a letter and says, I want to do my home loan with you, and you don't answer the phone, they're probably not going to call back, and it kind of leaves a bad taste in their mouth that if they're not going to take my call when I want to do business, what's going to happen during my loan process of getting my loan closed? So, just showing, how much missed calls can cost you, and then how it hurts your closing ratio. So just making sure that someone's always available. We've got toll-free tracking numbers that track all the phone calls. So if somebody calls and gets a voicemail and doesn't leave a message, we can send you an email and say, this person from this caller ID just called your toll-free number about your mailer, and nobody answered the phone. So you get an email, and you can route those out to your salespeople and call them back within minutes of missing that phone call. So that's an important part of toll-free tracking system. To make sure you don't miss calls is pretty important.
Well, this call detail report, you've said, just from a training perspective, that was one of the things that you captured the most out of, not necessarily being able to do the caller ID piece. That was valuable, but you said just the training piece, it was so differential, because sales meetings became a whole lot more fun and exciting because there were real life scenarios that you were able to play back. You want to touch on that anymore?
Yeah, so we can turn on call recording and record all your phone calls and email you a copy of the call recording every phone call you get. And I think what you're referencing there, Dave, is when I would take the calls that came in and play those phone calls in the sales meeting in front of all the loan officers. And if somebody wasn't on their game and kind of choked the phone call, didn't do a good job presenting the information, building rapport with the borrower, closing the sale, getting the Social Security number to run credit, if they didn't do a good job, it would kind of embarrass the loan officer a little bit, so that the next call that they took, they knew it was going to be recorded and it was going to be played in the sales meeting. It was amazing how they would step up their game and just be more on point with, taking these calls in a professional manner and doing what you're supposed to do, build rapport and close. That's, what leads are all about, right? It's just building rapport and trust and closing. So.
Well, putting an expiration date on leads was your number 2 item. This obviously has some positives and negatives to it, but talk about how you handled this and how you've coached others to do the same.
I just had this thought of walking onto a car lot to buy a car, and if the salesperson can't figure out what kind of car you want and get you in that car to test drive it, that salesperson's job is to turn you over to someone else who can do the job better. And sometimes it's just a personality conflict, male, female, whatever it could be. So if your loan officers take these calls and they think that they own them forever, there's not as much urgency as if you put an expiration date on the lead. So what I'm basically saying here is that loan officer takes an incoming call. The loan officer has, let's say, 24 hours or 48 hours to, run credit, look at a scenario, show them the monthly savings, and basically get some sort of income documentation back from the borrower, some sort of commitment that the person's moving forward. If they don't move that borrower into committing to doing a loan within 24, 48, 36 hours, my suggestion is take the lead away from them, give it to somebody else, and get someone else to take a shot at it before that borrower cools off. So putting an expiration date on leads, when the loan officer knows they're going to lose the lead if they don't move them forward within a certain time frame, they tend to work a little harder on getting it done. And no salesperson likes to have a lead pulled away from them and have someone else close it and make a $1,000 commission, when they were saying that, there's no way I can sell this borrower on this $150 a month savings. It's just not enough. And so putting an expiration date on leads is big.
Well, tracking reps and their closing ratio is number 3. You've had a pretty harsh reality with some of your sales reps who just couldn't get the deal done, and you ended up doing some career planning with them. Talk about just that level of seriousness that you bring to some of your marketing clients and how they need to really think about moving people out of the sales position if they can't get that job done.
I remember one of my sales trainers told me, Jeff, sales teams are like a big lake. If it stays still, it just gets kind of algae and still, and the water gets dirty. You got to have it moving all the time. So you got to have some spillage and water going off the dam, and that was how he explained it to me. But you've got to track each salesperson and find out how many leads they're getting and how many loans they're closing. I just had it happen at a company I do some consulting for here in Southern California, where I've got 2 loan officers, and they're both closing 3 to 4 loans a month off the direct mail leads that we're generating. But what we found out is one guy took 30 leads and the other guy took 90. So one guy's closing at 3%, the other guy's closing at 9%. And we think they're both doing a great job just because at the end of the month they're closing 3 or 4 loans each. But if one guy's picking up 3 times as many phone calls, you've got to track how many leads they're getting and what their closing ratio is to make sure that that you're getting rid of your non-closers, your people that can't close these leads will just cost you money, So you've got to, keep track of how many calls they're getting, what they're closing, and have kind of a, what do they call that, base acceptable bottom, a BAB, have the base acceptable bottom. If you can't close at 5% or better, you're costing you money and get rid of them. So you really have to watch this closely, and monitor it.
Well, you took matters into your own hands, too, and you used your own direct mail marketing strategy to use a letter from the president, sending a letter out to your leads to make sure that they were getting followed up on and getting answers and coming directly from you. You got a couple calls back, too.
Yeah, unfortunately, this was a big response on this direct mail campaign. I was blown away. Every time we got a phone call, we would put it into our little CRM, which at the time was Calyx Point. It wasn't anything complicated. And we'd mail a letter to them saying, hey, you called our office about a loan, just wanted to make sure we answered all your questions and could help you. And I was blown away how many people would call or email me and say, yeah, I called in there 2 weeks ago, and they took my Social Security number, and nobody ever called me back. Here we are running credit, never even getting back to the borrower, and that was at my company with my loan officers. So I took the heat on that one. And sometimes it was, the person had a 442, credit score, and that's why the loan officer didn't call them back, but it was still unacceptable. I wanted to make sure everybody, got a return phone call, even if we couldn't do a loan. So this kind of kept the loan officers on their toes. They knew that the President Bush, by the way, I think he was in office when I was running the mortgage company. I get phone calls saying, is your real last name Bush and really the president of this mortgage company? That was kind of funny. But anyways, the loan officers knew this letter was going to go to the borrower, and if I got a phone call from the borrower saying somebody didn't call me back, I'd be livid, and I'd go talk to the loan officer, and if it happened more than once, they probably wouldn't work there anymore. So mailing letters to every lead is just a great idea. It probably goes the same way for an internet lead,
Great. Number 5, schedule a follow-up 2 weeks out. Jeff, how did you manage or monitor the follow-up process and the collection of email. Was there any reporting features that you used just to measure that progress?
And I was not real technologically savvy back from 2000 to 2007. I didn't really have a big CRM program. I just used my LOS system, which was Calix Point at the time, and we used the conversation log and just put it in, the lead that, this is the day the call came in, and we would just schedule a call back 2 weeks later to make sure. Sometimes people call and you send them everything, and then they just go dark and they go MIA for a little while. So we would always schedule a follow-up call for 2 weeks out because things would change and they're back from vacation. A lot of times if the loan or the lead doesn't progress in the first few days, more on a direct mail call. I think internet lead guys are used to more consistent follow-up and calling, every day or every week or once a month until they get them. But on the direct mail, it was kind of like if they couldn't close the deal, within a few days of the call come in, they would just drop it. So we'd always call back a couple weeks later and pick up some extra deals out of that.
Well, the next one is, just pretty similar with the idea of going back to the recorded versions of the phone call. But, sales training obviously is something that's very important to every organization. Talk a little bit more about some of the key indicators that you looked for in some of your loan officers and phone people.
Well, listening to the phone calls is such a powerful tool. When you record your phone calls and you listen to your salespeople, loan officers that are closing 20% of their leads, and you listen to the guys closing 2%, it's very apparent what the difference is, what they're saying, how they're connecting with the borrower, building rapport and closing. So just listening to phone calls and figuring out what script is working well and what somebody's doing and trying to correct that and make sure everybody's doing something pretty similar. I mean, selling the company, sell yourself, sell your product, and asking for the business. That's usually a big problem is salespeople forget to close. They forget to ask for the business, can I order your appraisal today? Can I get your credit card? Be amazed how many people don't really ask. They're not salespeople. They're just conversationalists. So listening to calls, figuring out what your good people and your low-performing closing ratio people are doing and figuring that out can make a big difference.
Well, the last one, Jeff, and as we wrap up today, is just the idea of having a rework team, and talk a little bit more about how you facilitated that and then how you introduced it to your team and then what the responses were.
I remember New Century Mortgage, I think they had 100 loan officers in their retail call center, and they had like 5 people that were on the rework team. So the rework team would just take all the leads that the other loan officers couldn't close, and the rework team was doing more loans than the initial loan officer who got the incoming phone call. So if you're a big company and you have, this type of opportunity where you can put somebody in that will call back every lead, 2 weeks, 4 weeks later and rework them, you can find more loans from these original leads just from a different person on the phone and timing. So rework teams, were a big thing, and still I think would work, and you can even pay them a little bit higher commission split to work those leads because they're a little bit cooled off, and they're making outbound phone calls instead of the inbound direct mail calls, so a little tougher, a little more work to get a hold of them. But this is, we had 2 people on our rework team, and I had at one time like 30 loan officers. So, and they'd fund loans every month from leads I already paid for that the other loan officers said were dead leads.
Well, those are 7 great strategies that you can maybe go into more detail with when one of the attendants of today's webinar maybe follows up with you and talks more about their personal scenario. I know that you provide some expert consulting to your marketing clients, and Jeff, talk about next steps on how somebody can take the next step to get some more information on a customized marketing package.
Well, if somebody wants to look at using direct mail or email or reworking these internet leads and just wants some more information about how to make some money. I mean, if you've got $5,000 to spend, I mean, I'm not going to overpromise and say I can make you 50 grand back, but if you could spend $5,000 and fund an extra 5 loans a month, cost you $1,000 a loan in marketing. But if you can make 4 or 5 grand a loan, you might make $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 back on direct mail. And we're doing it for a lot of clients. We know it pretty well. So if you're interested in maybe making an investment in direct mail, figure out what's working, I would just say shoot me an email, jeffbush@overflowworks.com, and we'll set up an appointment and show you all this stuff live, figure out what states you're licensed in, how much data we have, what letters we should use, and get you set up on, you know, our mail program, you know, try to get you the ROI we're getting for these other clients.
That's great. Well, thanks everybody for participating, and we'll get that PDF document of all those customized campaigns and list quantities and counts in your area so that you can get more information from Overflow Works. And if you have any other questions, please call 800-784-5194. Jeff, thanks for your time, and we wish you all the very best today and in the future.